The Moncks Corner Elementary student was last seen Friday morning walking to a bus stop. A search through the boy's neighborhood that night turned up nothing, but search crews Sunday were determined. Then, just 5 minutes into the search, Justin's father looked inside his camper.
Oh, something's in there.
Welcome back, and thanks for being here. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. The story I have for you today is about a little boy who was killed decades ago, but his case just recently had an update. This, of course, left everyone hopeful that justice would finally be served. However, that unfortunately was not the case. This is the story of Justin Turner. Justin Lee Turner was born in South Carolina in 1983 to his mother, Elaine Pace, and his father, Victor Turner. Justin's parents had a very toxic relationship, and it wasn't very long after he was born that they got a divorce. When they split up, his father, Victor, got full custody of his son, which was said to partially be due to the fact that Elaine had committed adultery during their marriage. However, it's said that Victor was also cheating on his wife, with a woman whom he would later go on to marry, Pamela Renee Turner. So while Justin lived primarily with his father and stepmother at their home on Horseshoe Road in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, his mother Elaine was still allowed to have weekend visits with her son. She would also speak to him every night on the phone before he went to bed. And the last time that Elaine spoke to Justin was on the night of March 2nd, 1989. During this phone call, the 5-year-old would tell her that he had something very important to tell her the next time she picked him up. But then, the little boy's stepmother, Pamela, would take the phone from his hands and wouldn't let him speak to Elaine any further. The very next day, March 3rd, around 3:30 p.m., Justin was reported as missing when he didn't get off the school bus. According to his stepmother, Pamela, she would normally watch Justin as he got onto the bus in the morning for his half-day of kindergarten. However, that morning she had been in the shower, so the little boy just peeked his head in and told her that he was going to wait for the bus with a neighbor. It was only about a 100-yard walk from their home, and Justin had done this plenty of times in the past, so Pamela felt comfortable with that. But then later on, when the stepmother went to wait for the 5-year-old to get off the bus, he was nowhere to be seen. According to the bus driver, Justin had never even gotten on the bus that morning. It would later be discovered that the little boy, whom Justin was supposed to go wait at the bus stop with, also had never seen him that morning. So authorities went out to the family's home to begin searching for the little boy, but to no avail. Their search for Justin continued over the next couple of days, with many law enforcement officials and volunteers coming in to help look. In the meantime, police began questioning Justin's mother, Elaine, as they thought that she might know where her son was. She had been in a custody battle with Justin's father, Victor, for some time, so authorities believed that she might have taken him. But Elaine had no idea where Justin was, and she was desperate for police to stop questioning her and find her son instead. Now, during their search for Justin, Elaine was not even allowed onto Victor's property to help search. This was because Victor and Pamela, like police, also believed that she had something to do with her son's disappearance. Then 2 days after Justin had initially been reported as missing, police would search the area around his home yet again, just in case they had missed something. Justin's father, Victor, was also involved in this search, and there was a news crew that had been following him around as he looked for his son. During this time, Victor went over to a camper that was on his property so he could look inside and see if Justin was there. And within mere seconds, he backed right up and exclaimed, "My son's in there."
Oh, something's in there.
Ethan, let's
No camera, no camera. Where is he at? Where is he at? In there.
I went in there yet.
Victor had just found his son's body, but he didn't grab him close and hold him like I would think that many parents would do in that situation. Instead, he backed away from Justin, not trying to touch him or hold him at all. It also seemed like Victor didn't shed a single tear.
Up to 6. Y'all go ahead and put that out. I'll get back out.
Anybody get it here that night?
Making this even odder was the fact that he had found his son exceptionally fast inside the camper, like he knew exactly where to look. This camper had previously been searched too, several times in fact. The exact location where Justin was found inside was also previously searched. So while this was the perfect place for a 5-year-old to go and hide and maybe get lost, it was pretty clear that Justin did not put himself in there. When the little boy's autopsy was done, it was determined that he had been strangled to death by a ligature. Inside one of Justin's closed fists, medical examiners would find a clump of hair, though this was later determined to belong to an animal. The autopsy also uncovered partially digested food in Justin's stomach, which was from the family's dinner the night prior, indicating that Justin likely died shortly after that. Additionally, it was found that the little boy's pants had been pulled down about a third of the way, and he had been SA'd by a cylindrical object. The coroner couldn't determine whether this had been done to him before or after he died, but Justin's death was determined to be a homicide. Now, another thing that didn't add up was that when his body was found, it was freezing cold, even though it was 80 degrees outside. His body also did not show the rate of decomposition that you would expect at that point, and there were droplets of water found on his nose and forehead. Therefore, the authorities believed that Justin's body had been frozen prior to being placed inside the camper. Now, even though it was said that the camper had previously been searched by authorities, the detective who claimed that he had looked through there 2 days prior would later say he didn't get close enough to the exact location where Justin's body was found. Then, when he was given a polygraph asking if he had even searched the camper at all, he failed. However, Victor's mother, Justin's grandmother, and a neighbor would also say that they had looked through the camper a few days prior and not seen any signs of Justin. Then 2 days after the little boy was found, his stepmother, Pamela, the last one to have seen him, was asked to come in for a polygraph, during which time she denied knowing anything about what had happened to her stepson. But Pamela was found to have been deceptive in every answer that she gave. She was also discovered to be on Valium at the time that her test was administered. Investigators scheduled a second polygraph for Pamela to come in the following day. But before that could happen, the sheriff who was heading the investigation would inform the media that Pamela was a suspect. Following that, both she and her husband, Victor, obtained a lawyer and refused to cooperate any further with authorities. Making Justin's father, Victor, look even more suspicious was the fact that some of the other searchers had been looking at him prior to him finding Justin's body, and they said that he seemed very nervous. He had been wringing his hands and even asked a police officer what the consequences would be if someone had intentionally harmed or killed the little boy. Very weird. A search warrant had been executed on the Turner family home. As a result, police seized a dog leash, sheets, hairs, and fibers. They also found a freezer that was in a storage shed on the property.
Agents with the State Law Enforcement Division began a day-long investigation, dusting the camper for prints, searching the Turner's home, and trying to open the trunk of one of the old cars parked in the yard.
We got the state crime lab in, and we want to cover all leads and all angles.
Neighbors who knew Justin Turner described him as full of life and happy, but not the kind of kid who'd go off with a stranger. Investigators were not speculating publicly on the nature of Justin Turner's death.
But even though police had collected this evidence, there would not be any updates on the case for quite some time. And in that time, Justin's father and stepmother would never once call police to get any updates on his case. Then, about 9 months after the little boy's death, his stepmother, Pamela, was placed under arrest and charged with murder. This came in the wake of a coroner's inquest, which determined that there was enough evidence to charge her. Though according to the lead investigator on this case, the so-called evidence was just hearsay and none of it was substantiated. Therefore, these charges against Pamela would end up being dropped because of insufficient evidence. It was also determined that the DNA and fingerprint evidence that had previously been collected from the scene was insufficient because it had been collected at the family's property and, therefore, had every right to be there. When these charges against Justin's stepmother Pamela were dropped, prosecutors did it with the stipulation that if any new evidence came to light, she could be charged again. During the inquest that had been held, some of Pamela's relatives had testified. And they said that she had been laughing while watching the news about Justin's disappearance and subsequent murder. She was also heard saying how stupid the detectives were. It's also said that at one point, she claimed that there had been a big fight between her and her stepson Justin. This happened shortly before he died, and she claimed that she had won. On top of all this, Victor's own mother said that it was possible that Justin's body had been hidden in some stables near their home prior to him being found in the camper. She said she had evidence of this too, because they had all been hanging out in the stables shortly after Justin went missing. And in the soil there, they saw an impression that looked to be that of a child's body. Pamela's own sister also confirmed this information. Now, even though it seems pretty obvious that Pamela and Victor are to blame for the little boy's death, there was another young boy who came forward saying that he had seen something shortly after Justin disappeared. The child told his mother that he had seen Justin walking down his road that morning. Then he suddenly saw a man stand up from behind a large pile of dirt and call Justin over to him. It seemed like Justin knew the man. This man then wrapped his hand around Justin's mouth and pulled him into a dull gray compact vehicle. The boy also gave a description of the man, saying that he was less than 6'2", around 150 pounds, and had a black spiky haircut. He even drew a picture of what he had seen. When this child had originally told his parents this information, they brought him to the Medical University Hospital to speak with several psychologists. However, they concluded that the little boy was just making up the story because he had heard so many things on the news. This information was also relayed to police, and they did a brief search for the man, but didn't find anyone matching the description. Authorities didn't speak directly to the child at this time either.
A surprise witness brought to the attention of Berkeley County Sheriff's investigators by the attorney for strangulation victim Justin Turner's parents may not have seen a thing. Berkeley County Sheriff's investigator Lieutenant Sidney Wren says 5-year-old Justin's kindergarten classmate put a story together about seeing Justin on the morning he was murdered as a result of news reports he'd seen and based on what he'd heard others say.
He's imagining certain things that might have happened just because of listening to other people say those type things. And this is what it appears to be.
They would speak with him 2 years after Justin's murder, however. And according to the child's mother, they were in fear for his life after he had come forward with this information, as they had received several anonymous phone calls threatening him to stop talking. Even the detective who spoke with the child at this time said that it was clear that he had seen something and was suffering from some type of trauma. His mother claimed that in the 2 years since Justin had been abducted, the little boy had just recently started getting over his fear of going outside alone. The mother also said that the little boy's story had always remained the same. Detectives this time believed the little boy. However, they didn't think that he would be able to testify in court. And therefore, this lead was once again lost and not looked into any further. Justin's friend, who lived nearby at the time, who was also named Justin, would say that he remembered in the few days prior to his friend disappearing, he seemed very nervous. The little boy had told his friend that he wasn't supposed to be outside of his family's yard, or he would get in trouble, which was odd because he had always gone over to his friend's house before with no issues. Justin's family was not giving up their fight for justice, though sadly, in December of 2004, his mother Elaine would pass away due to cirrhosis of the liver. After that, one of Justin's cousins, Amy, who was only 8 at the time that he died, continued fighting for him, even opening up a group on Facebook titled Justice for Justin Lee Turner.
I woke up the other morning on March 3rd and saw a picture on my office wall of Justin, and all the memories came flooding back.
For Russell Pace, they were bad memories about the murder of his stepson, Justin Turner. Pace was married to Turner's birth mother until she died in 2004. On March 3, 1989, the kindergarten student disappeared from his home on Horseshoe Road in Moncks Corner.
It turned out to be a whirlwind of the day. I was at work, my wife was at work, and we got the phone call that Justin was missing. It was just 2 days of hell, actually, so until they found him. It's just hard to believe that the person who did it can live their life for 25 years and knowing and thinking that they got away with it. It's mind-boggling.
Today, the property where Justin Turner's body was found is a vacant lot. But Pace says his stepson's memory will live on forever, and he won't give up until his killer is caught and convicted.
I promised my wife before she passed away that I would continue the battle. She told me not to give up, keep it in the news, just, fight the battle for her. That was one of her last requests.
Then, in January of 2024, there was a break in the case, and Justin's father, Victor, and his stepmother, Pamela, who had now changed her name to Megan, were placed under arrest and charged with Justin's murder. This had come as a result of advancements in forensic technology since the little boy's death decades earlier.
This is an amazing day. It's a day that a lot of people that have since left us have been waiting for, and a lot of people that are here today. 34 years ago, that's a long time. It's a long time. But if any of you remember, most of you do, Justin Turner was reported missing on March 3rd, 1989 at 3:12 p.m. from his home here in Berkeley County. Deputies arrived. James Gether, first deputy on the scene, requested assistance and got help from other deputies and members of the rescue squad, DNR, SLED, fire departments, converged on the area searching for Justin. He's 5 years old at the time. Justin never made it to school that morning. He never got on the bus. He never arrived at school. That's because he had been murdered. And he'd been murdered by his stepmother and his father and left in a camper behind their house. I can't think of a more tragic, horrendous murder. 5-year-old boy. As we looked at this case, and we've been working on this case for on and off for a year and a half straight, but on and off for many years. Many sheriffs before me. But I keep going back to Justin. Today, Justin would have been 40 years old. Could have graduated high school, went to college, got married, had a child, been a productive citizen. But he wasn't. Because we believe these two people took that away from all of us and this family, who I have been in contact with over the years. And they have been tremendous in their efforts to keep this case alive and keep pushing us and asking questions and helping us get where we are today. How did we get here? We got here because of some of the people in this room. Because of investigative work, the forensic work that SLED had done, the SLED agents, all the folks involved from the sheriff's office. It is a lot of people that helped put this case together over the years, and I want to thank them. We know for a fact that Justin was strangled to death. There was ligature marks on his neck. We recovered what we believe to be the evidence of the murder. We have a lot of forensic evidence. We got here because of new technology in forensic medicine. We all know how things have progressed over the years. And we kept pushing and plugging and pulling to finally get what we needed to make an arrest. I have to say, I'm hoping And I'm praying that Justin is looking down from heaven, rejoicing that today there's some justice. There's still some justice. I mean, we were able to narrow down the time of death with the contents from Justin's stomach that morning. Statements that were made during the initial interview, initial on-scene investigation, all of those things. But we were able to use some forensic testing that we had not had available to us before. And that enabled us to tie in the murder weapon that we believe was used to strangle Justin to clothing and fabric on his clothing at the time of his death. There's a lot of other things that account for it, but that's just a couple of things.
They were able to compare microscopic fibers from a dog leash that had been collected from the family's home during the investigation with fibers that were found on Justin's shirt and his neck wound. They believed that the dog leash in combination with a dog collar that they were never able to recover were what had been used to kill Justin. But in the end, a judge would dismiss the charges against the father and stepmother. He stated that since many witnesses in the case were either unavailable or deceased at that point, and several pieces of evidence, including the camper and the dog collar, were unable to be obtained or tested, there was not enough to follow through with prosecuting the couple. A new dog collar had actually been bought at a Walmart 31 years after Justin's death, and that's what they had used to compare the fibers. There was also a recorded call between the sheriff detective who was investigating the case and the forensic expert who had been hired to test the items. In the call, the forensic expert says, "How wedded are you to the leash? Because I don't think it's the leash." Therefore, Victor and Megan's charges were dismissed with prejudice, meaning that the ruling is now final and cannot be retried at any point.
It's been 30-some years coming. I'm sorry. It's been over 30 years we haven't been able to talk. We've been under suspicion. And our life has just been a hell over all of this.
For 35 years, in and out of this courthouse, hearing after hearing, the Turners say the implication that they had something to do with 5-year-old Justin Turner's death has hung heavy over their lives.
I mean, we didn't do it. Every little thing that came up, everybody tried to point in our direction. Nobody looked at the actual facts. It was like a decision was made from day one, and that's the only way it went.
I think they failed us at the beginning.
The Turners say their next step is to take a deep breath and go home. Turner's father says he's sad they'll never know the truth.
I'm glad that it's over with, but now we really won't never know too much.
At the same time, Victor and Megan's attorney tried to present a new theory as to who had killed Justin. He claimed that serial killer Richard Mark Evantes had been the one who murdered the little boy. Richard was known for abducting young children, often near their bus stops. He would then SA and kill them. Additionally, Richard hadn't been far from the Turners' home at the time of Justin's death. Justin Lee Turner's funeral was held on Tuesday, March 9th, 1989, at the Parks Funeral Home, where there were over 200 people in attendance. He was laid to rest along with some of his favorite things, which included a California raisin doll, a baseball t-shirt from his favorite team, and a pound puppy stuffed animal. Justin's mother, Elaine, wrote about her son on the first anniversary of his death in a piece titled, "My Dearest Justin." It said, "There was once a little boy named Justin, who everyone has come to know. I write this story in hopes that your children will live and grow. Born into Mama's arms, he was loved, nurtured, and grew. He held her hand as he learned to walk, far too soon she knew. Justin was his name, so beautiful and sweet, loved by everyone he would meet. Created by love, then taken by hate. Like every child, he was innocent and pure. Why this happened to him, we must now endure. He was so precious and healthy and had so much to live for. When he was taken, his laughter was gone forevermore. He had a family who loved him so. Now they ask, why did he have to go? I'll carry you forever, Justin. I love you, Mummy." Well, thank you for listening to Justin's story today. There are so many things that point to his father and stepmother being guilty of his murder. But it seems like at this point, there will never be any justice for this little boy. With police having no further evidence, and the fact that his father and stepmother can no longer be convicted. What do you think about this case? What do you think happened to Justin? So, if you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. And turn on your notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least 3 times every single week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care guys. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon, so check it out on patreon.com/awickedworld, or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims are never forgotten, and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a story you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email to awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.